that works. That's a good way of curing your Monday blues. A blue bike, throaty exhaust note, having these amazing hills as your playground. This is the 2021 TVS Apache RTR 200. It's still powered by the same 197cc oil-cooled 4-valve engine, but now pumps out 20.8 PS and 17.2 Newton meters of torque. Firepower, which now can be accessed via two riding modes. Sport, which gives you access to all of it, and you have the rain and urban mode, which restricts the power to about 17.3 PS and 16.5 Newton meters of torque. And the riding modes also control the dual channel ABS. It's least intrusive in the sport mode, ramps up a bit in the urban mode, and acts pretty much like a nanny, intervening at the slightest hint of slip in the rain mode. And no point for guessing what mode I was riding in so early in the morning and having all of these corners all to myself. So yeah, sport mode, engine at full chat, and you can clearly see the difference. The engine is noticeably smoother, noticeably calmer compared to the BS4 iteration. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still buzz creeping in at about 8,000 RPM, but the engine does feel a lot more settled. And I think that has a lot to do with the huge improvements that TVS has made in terms of fueling. Because I love how responsive the throttle is, even in the higher gears. And that, compounded with this really bassy exhaust note reverberating in the canyons, makes for a really engaging ride. And then you have the suspension. To complement the Showa monoshock which made its way on the 2020 RTR, this one, the front unit, is also Showa. And for the first time, a segment first, this comes with preload adjustability. So you have 16.5 tons of preload to set the front sag as per your weight. And it's amazing the difference it makes. So if you think about it, TVS already made a big step in terms of riding dynamics with the BS4 iteration of the RTR. And now you can truly exploit the full potential, the full capability of the RTR in the corners with the motorcycle set as per your weight. You can trust the front a whole lot better with the suspension working in its more optimum range in the middle part of the stroke, and you are better connected with the amount of grip available from the Remoras. Grip, which also allows you to harness the full potential of the brakes, which was the Achilles heel of the BS4 iteration of the RTR. And yet, this is not the reason why you're going to buy this bike. The reason you will is because of this. I have to admit, I was among the first to poke fun at the riding modes when TVS launched the new RTR. I mean, come on. In all seriousness, you don't need two riding modes to handle 20 horsepower, right? But what I've come to understand after riding the motorcycle is the softer map in the rain or the urban mode has allowed TVS to showcase just how good the RTR can be as a practical day-to-day life motorcycle while still sticking true to its racing genes. My biggest gripe with all the previous RTRs was the vibration. TVS's pursuit to get the most horsepower from the engines led to the engines being quite stressed, especially the carbureted ones, and which led to motorcycles which were quite buzzy to live with. But now, this softer map, it's like they have completely flipped the script, because you can notice the engine is definitely smoother and calmer all the way to its lower 9000 RPM rev limit in the rain or the urban mode. The engine is still very responsive, quite peppy, which makes the RTR a really fun motorcycle to ride even during your daily commutes. With the vibrations in check is also when you start to appreciate some of the other things which the RTR does really well. The city is the perfect setting for you to appreciate its low 152 kg curb weight, which is in fact 1 kg lighter than the 2020 model. Also, the seat height is nice and low at 800 millimeters, and you also have almost ADV like 180 mm of ground clearance. The seats are well padded for the rider as well as the pillion. Even the ergonomics, I think they have struck a really good balance between sporty and comfortable, and now more so with the levers being adjustable for reach. The clutch is also really nice and light to operate in the city, and if you do get stuck in chock-a-block traffic, you have TVS's patented glide-through technology, which prevents the bike from stalling and keep chugging along with zero inputs required on the throttle. This time around, we also got to connect with TVS's X-Connect app, and then that opens up stuff like navigation, call intimation as well as SMS intimation, which you can see on your instrument cluster. And even if you do crash, it sends out a notification to your close relatives. So a really good safety feature to have. Almost sounds like the perfect motorcycle, no? It's not. I mean, if you consider how easy it is for you to play around with the front preload, it is equally difficult to set your sag for the shock, because first and foremost, the toolkit doesn't get a C-spanner, and even just to access the shock, you have to remove not just the side panel, but also the entire battery housing, because the adjustable ring is located closer to the seat and the tank rather than the swing arm, which we are normally used to. And yes, you will have to play around with the preload on the shock, because it is quite harsh in the default setting, and only after you play around with the preload, it makes for a more supple ride over broken roads. Secondly, you could very well end up riding the RTR with the side stand down, because there is no engine cutoff sensor. And while we are nitpicking, I also felt the slipper clutch was not as effective when you're riding really hard and going down the gears, because there was a decent amount of rear wheel hop, especially compared to the unit on the Dominar or the Duke 390, which obviously make a lot more power. But other than that, there is zero doubt that this is the best RTR that TVS have ever made. And the fact that you can buy this motorcycle, get all of these updates and this special blue scheme, color scheme, for just 1,000 rupee premium, ultimately makes the RTR one of the most complete and value for money packages in this segment.